Good morning, students. Welcome once again to our lecture. Now, today we will complete that lesson Triumph of Surgery. First part I had already sent or you have seen on video in the YouTube. Today we will complete the lesson. So, let us start. Hope you all are following and doing the homework. Read it again and again and try to understand soon as much as possible. So, let us start. We'll continue from where we left over yesterday. At the surgery, the household dogs surged round me. At the surgery, a place where dogs are treated or animals were treated, veterinary doctor's place. Surged means rushed. When the doctor reaches, Mr. Harriot reaches the surgery or his house, the dogs which were kept there, they rushed round him. Tricky looked down at the noisy pack with dull eyes, and Tricky, who is not well, and rest all the dogs who are there, they are very noisy. And when Mr. Harriot puts him down, lay motionless on the carpet. He is not well, feeling well, is very weak, so he lies down on the carpet. The other dogs, after sniffing round him for a few seconds, decided he was an uninteresting object and ignored him. Other dogs, seeing a new arrival, they start sniffing. Sniffing means with the nose, they take the smell of him for a few seconds and then decide that he is uninteresting. It seems like an object, motionless, not strong, so not about to play with, so ignored him. I made up a bed for him in a warm, loose box next to the one where the dogs slept. Other dogs where they slept, there is a room. He made a bed for him in a warm means it is not very cold. Loose means not tight, we can say. There are two loose in English, we can say. Here LOOSE means not tight, hanging like, and LOSE also is loose, that is the to lose, that is verb form, and this loose, it is an adjective. Loose box next to the one where the dogs slept, where other dogs are kept or slept, they have arrangement for sleeping. He keeps a loose box for him. For 2 days I kept an eye on him. 2 days he is observed, giving him no food but plenty of water. For 2 days no food is provided, only plenty of water is provided. At the end of the second day he started to show some interest. As he is not having any food, so previous food which is not digested, it is digested, we can say. Now he is active, he shows some interest in his surroundings, and on the third he began to whimper means to cry with broken low sounds, shows some activeness. When he heard the dogs in the yard, when he hears some dogs in the yard, they are shouting, playing, he also tries to cry with broken low sounds, that is whimper. When I opened the door, Tricky trotted out and was immediately engulfed by Joe. When he opens the door, Mr. Harriot, Tricky trotted out. Trotted out means moved in a hurry as if he wants to reach there, and was immediately engulfed. Engulfed means surrounded by Joe. Joe, it is the greyhound. It is a type of dog, or you can say it is આપણે કહીએ જાતિ એને કહીએ છે, એ કૂતરાની એક જાતિ છે ગ્રે હાઉન્ડ. And his friends, they all surround him, engulf him. After rolling him over, they play with him, roll him over, and thoroughly inspecting him. Then they observe him very tightly, closely. The dogs moved off down the garden. They moved off down the garden, other dogs. Tricky followed them. Tricky also follows them, rolling slightly with his surplus fat. He is still fat, so he goes after them. Later that day, I was present at feeding time. In the afternoon, maybe Later that day, the veterinary doctor he was present at feeding time. I watched while Tristan slopped the food into the bowls, and Tristan, he slopped the food into the bowl. Slop means put the food into the bowls. There was the unusual headlong rush followed by the sounds of high speed eating. As soon as food is poured into the bowl, kept into the bowl, all the dogs rush and they headlong means they make a line followed by the sounds of high speed eating. They all start eating like very greedily. Every dog knew that if he fell behind the others, he was liable to have some competition for the last part of his meal. If they don't take the meal now, they are late, then they might not get the food. So each and every dog is hurrying to have his part so that he is not left hungry and has his part. You can see how all the dogs, Mr. Harriet is there, all the dogs are going to the garden. When they had finished, when they finished eating, Tricky took a walk round the shining bowls. Tricky, who is in a habit of eating much, now he is getting very little food after 2 days. So the shining bowls are there. He walks around them, licking casually inside one or two of them. If something is left out in that, then remaining in that, he starts licking. As you can see, the animals licking the food or the case in which the food is kept. Next day, an extra bowl was put out for him. As he is not having proper food, next day some more food is kept for him, and I was pleased to see him jostling his way towards it. Jostling means pushing. He is driving by push. He is very in a hurry to go to eat that food. From then on, his progress was rapid. Now he is getting cured faster. His progress is fast. Rapid means fast. He had no medicinal treatment of any kind. Doctor is not treating him with any medicine but just taking care by not giving him enough food which he is habituated to. But all day he ran about with the dogs. Now he has become active. His activities are just like other dogs. He is mingling in the group of other dogs, joining in their friendly scrimmages. They are quarreling. Friendly quarrels are there. He joins them. He discovered the joys of being bowled over, tramped on, and squashed every few minutes. They play with him. They trample him, means walk on him. Squash him is just like crush him. Like that, we can say walking steadily, marching, and crushing. This all is happening with him. He became an accepted member of the gang, and as he is joining them, he becomes a member of the gang of the dogs, an unlikely, silky little object among the shaggy crew. Crew is a group of dogs. Shaggy means dirty, they are not tidy, untidy they are, and he is a silky. He is looked after very well by the rich mistress, so he is a silky little object, we can say, fighting like a tiger for his share at meal times, and when meals are served he is fighting like a tiger and hunting rats in the old hen house at night. In the hen house rats are there and he is hunting them for food. He had never had such a time in his life. Such kind of conditions were not there. He was very nicely fed by the mistress when he was at her house. All the while, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered anxiously in the background. While this is happening, the other side at the veterinary doctor's, Mrs. Pumphrey hovered. Hovered means to hang fluttering in air. Means what is going to happen? Just assuming in the background, ringing a dozen times a day for the latest bulletins. Bulletins means news. What is happening? How the her dog's condition is, Tricky's condition is. She is ringing a dozen times. Dozen means 12. Dozen means 12. So many times she is ringing for knowing about her dog's condition. I dodged the questions. Dodge means here skips, avoids by changing the position or changing the plan or changing the talk. So the doctor is dodging the questions about whether his cushions were being turned regularly or his correct coat worn according to the weather. Such questions which are not related while he is in the treatment, that he is giving regular food or not, cushions are there, they are turned regularly or not, correct coat is worn or not according to the weather, like that, because many coats were there according to the seasons. But I was able to tell her. The author tells her that the little fellow was out of danger and convalescing rapidly, and he is recovering very fast. He is out of danger now. He informs such things to Mrs. We can say Mrs. Pomfrey. The word convalescing seemed to do something to Mrs. Pomfrey. When she hears that the dog is recovering, she is glad, happy. She started to bring round fresh eggs, two dozen at a time, to build up Tricky's strength. Now she brings food for her, eggs, fresh eggs, two dozens at a time. Two dozen means 24 eggs at a time. She is giving to the doctor to feed him, to build up Tricky's strength, to make him very strong. For a happy period, my partners and I had two eggs each for breakfast. His colleagues who were there at the veterinaries or treating the dogs, he and they had two eggs each for breakfast. But when the bottles of wine began to arrive, also wine is served to the dog, the real possibilities of the situation began to dawn on the household. Dawn means develop, something is developing. When wine comes to the household, real possibilities of the situation began to dawn on the household. It was to enrich Tricky's blood. Now wine is to enrich blood nutrients of Tricky. Lunch became a ceremonial occasion with two glasses of wine before and several during the meal. Wine, two glasses of wine are served before the meal and several during the meal. If you know that wine, when wine is taken, you feel very hungry after that. So we can say hunger, appetite increases. So for that, to increase his appetite so that he may eat more, wine is served before the meal, two glasses before the meal and several during the meal. And during the meal also wine is served. We could hardly believe it when the brandy came to put a final edge on Tricky's constitution. Constitution. Constitution, we say it is the laws of governing a country, but here it is a composition or how his structure is, physical, his physics we can say. When brandy is there, after the wine brandy is reaching there, brandy came to put a final edge on Tricky's constitution. So that is the last thing needed to build his body, to make him strong. For a few nights the fine spirit was rolled around, inhaled and reverently drunk. That brandy, it is given to him, inhaled and reverently, respectfully it is drunk. They were days of deep content. Deep content. Content means satisfaction. Starting well with the extra egg in the morning. Now the food given is being increased. Extra egg is there in the morning, improved and sustained by the midday wine, and thereafter in the afternoon midday wine is served and finishing luxuriously round the fire with the brandy, and at night brandy also is served. So luxurious things are there, or eating has become a luxury once again. It was a temptation to keep Tricky on as a permanent guest. Temptation is a strong feeling or urge, we can say, allure or enticement or attraction. Now the doctor is having attraction towards the dog as he is recovering and active. He wants him to be a permanent guest, means not to leave him or give him to his mistress again. But I knew Mrs. Pumphrey was suffering. But Mrs. Pumphrey, she is habituated with him. She loves him very much as a child, so she will not part with him. And she is suffering as he is not there. After a fortnight means 2 weeks or 15 days, felt compelled to phone. Now she is forced to phone. Compel means forced to phone and tell her, or the doctor tells her, that the little dog had recovered and was awaiting collection. The doctor tells him that he has recovered fully and waiting to be collected, means taken back to his original house, to Mrs. Pumphrey. Within minutes, about 30 feet of gleaming black metal drew up outside the surgery. As soon as the phone call ends, within few minutes, in no time we can say, 30 feet of gleaming black metal. Black metal means black vehicle, black car, luxurious car. Gleaming means shining. 30 feet long it is. It comes to his doorstep, drew up outside the surgery. The chauffeur driver opened the door and I could just make out the figure of Mrs. Pumphrey, almost lost in the interior. It is beautifully decorated. She is very rich, we can say. So the interior is good and she is lost. She is not to be seen, or she is hidden in the interior. Her hands were tightly clasped in front of her. Clasp means હાથ એકબીજામાં બાંધેલા છે, પકડેલા હોય એકબીજાને. Her lips tremble. She wants to say something, but lips are trembling. Oh, Mr. Harriet, do tell me the truth. Is he really better? She is having a doubt that has the dog recovered. She wants to find out the truth. So she is asking Mr. Harriet. Yes, he is fine. The doctor says yes, he is good now. He has been cured. There is no need for you to get out of the car. But tells her not to come out of the car. I will go and fetch him. He will bring the dog for her. I walk through the house into the garden. The author walks back into the house through the garden. Into the garden, a mass of dogs was hurtling round and round the lawn. Hurtling, moving speedily, hurrying. The dogs were moving round and round the lawn. What is a lawn? It is a low grass land, or we can say free area around the house, in front of the house. And in their midst, amongst them, in the middle of them, ears flapping, turning up and down, tail waving, the tail is moving, was the little golden figure of Tricky. Among the mass of that dogs, that dirty dogs, is Tricky. In 2 weeks, he had been transformed into a lithe. Lithe means flexible. First, when he arrives at Mr. Harriet's, he is not able to move, very weak, but now he is active and flexible. Hard muscled animal. Once again, he has become strong. He was keeping up well with the pack. He is in the group of the dogs. He has become friends with the other dogs. So he is now said to be well with the pack. He has got well with the pack. Stretching out in great bounds. Bounds here means leaping. Leaping very fast, stretching. His chest almost brushing the ground. And chest is almost brushing the ground. I carried him back along the passage to the front of the house. He takes him along the passage in front of the house where the car is waiting for him. The chauffeur was still holding the door open. The chauffeur, he has kept the door open, and when Tricky saw his, you can see Mr. Harris has brought the dog. She is inside the car and he has reached to his mistress. He is very happy now. Mrs. Pumphrey is also very happy. He took off from my arms. He jumps from his arms in a tremendous leap, jumps from his arms and sailed into Mrs. Pumphrey's lap and reaches Mrs. Pumphrey's lap. She gave a startled, she is surprised, ooh, and then had to defend herself as he swarmed over her. The dog is meeting the mistress after so much time, so he is running over her, licking her face and barking. Very excited to meet her, licking her face and barking. So she has to save herself from him. During the excitement, I helped the chauffeur to bring out the beds, toys, cushions, coats, and bowls, none of which had been used. So many things had been given to take care while he was going to Mr. Harriet. We saw beds were there, toys, cushions, coats, and bowls were there, but none of these things had been used. As the car moved away, now Mrs. Pumphrey goes away from there, and as the car is moving away, Mrs. Pumphrey leaned out of the window. She leans out of the window of the car, tears shone in her eyes. Tears of happiness, they are in her eyes, and her eyes are shining with the tears. Her lips tremble. Again, she is saying something with the trembling lips. Oh, Mr. Harriet, she cried. And as she is moving away, she has to speak a little louder. Oh, Mr. Harriet, how can I ever thank you? She might have assumed that the dog will never recover, but he has recovered, and again he is as strong as before. So she is very thankful to him. How can she thank her like that? She is saying, this is a triumph of surgery, and this is a triumph of surgery. That is, you have taken the care of the dog so much that he has once again recovered. That is nothing but a triumph of surgery. Nowadays you can see coronavirus pandemic is going on, so many are recovering. We lose hope that he might die or she might die. So when he recovers, we can say it is a triumph or victory of surgery. Glossary is there in the textbook itself, you can go through, and many other words are also given in the lecture. You may write it down. Sausage finely minced meat stuffed into long cylindrical cases and divided into small lengths by twisting or tying. Rheumi, a water discharge from a mucous membrane, especially the nose or eyes. Listless, lacking energy and enthusiasm. Lumbago, muscular pain in the lower part of the back lumbar region. Regime, prescribed course of exercise and diet. Distraught, extremely worried. Surgery, a place where a doctor, a dentist, or a veterinary surgeon treats patients, means clinic we can say. Scrimmage, rough or confused struggle. Convalescing, recovering from an illness. Lithe, flexible. Now questions are given. Think about it. What kind of a person do you think the narrator or veterinary surgeon is? Would you say he is tactful as well as full of common sense? Please answer the questions in your own way. Try to write your own. Do you think, second question, do you think Tricky was happy to go home? What do you think will happen now? So asking about what is going to happen next after the end of the lesson. And is Tricky happy? That we have already seen. He is so excited. Do you think this is a real life episode or mere fiction? Fiction means unreal story. Or is it a mixture of both? Or is it a real life story also and some unreal things are also there? Talk about it. Some questions are here. This episode describes the silly behavior of a rich woman who is foolishly indulgent, perhaps because she is lonely. Do you think such people are merely silly, or can their actions cause harm to others? Overcare, pampering, we can say, they are always harmful, as I have told earlier in the lesson. So this causes harm definitely. Answer these questions. Do you think there are also parents like Mrs. Pumphrey? Real children are treated like this, overfed, pampering is there, overlooking is there? I may say yes, such parents are there in the real world also. What would you have done if you were a member of the staff in Mrs. Pumphrey's household? Second, a neighbor. What would your life have been like in general? Fourth, what would you have done if you were in the narrator's place? Please try to answer these questions. That is the end of our lesson. So please take care once again. Do the homework, write down the hard words, and try to keep yourself safe. Follow the rules for the pandemic. Keep distance, wear the mask, wash your hands regularly with sanitizer, or we can say Dettol. Many things are there. So please take care of your and your family also. Have a nice day. Thank you.